Crowley unfortunately went down the dark path and disintegrated. But before he went, but this is the thing that people do not understand. Before he went down that dark path, he had a body of work that was among the most enlightened, and that should be celebrated and studied. And the part when he went down the dark path should be studied also as a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I did that, and it was recommended to me by somebody from the organization that I should get rid of the books. Well, so I did.
Right. But, and the thing is, again, the whole part of it really is that, there are certain, as there's certain protection spells, and there's certain things that you can do to fortify yourself. And it's like, it's not like you would want to have a copy of the Necromonicon in your library. That's something that you don't want to mess with.
Well, that was sort of the motive for the advice. They said, look, you don't want to have this stuff. Well, I got to tell you, I didn't finish his autobiography. He called it an autohagiography, which is an autobiography of a saint. Right. So he was going off the deep end with his ego. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The damn book was about 1,000 pages long, and after about page 750, I said, you know what? I don't want to read any more of this.
No, and there's no reason you should have to. It's like
by chapter 50, he was talking about how he couldn't get away from these demonic forces in the lower realms. They were using him, and he wanted to get away from it, but he couldn't escape it. It was almost like too late now.
Yeah, well, he didn't have, see, the thing is, for all his knowledge, he really didn't, the whole thing is, he left him, what Crowley's problem was later on in his life when he became addicted to heroin and other drugs.
Well, there's the problem right there. That brings your vibration down, and that attracts the lowest entities to yourself.
That's what I'm saying, is that he had holes poked in his aura to the
point. Absolutely. He left himself wide open.
Did.
And I will say, he last I heard, well, I met him back in the 80s. I mean, that's going to sound, I did something that I was told I shouldn't do, and I attracted him to me. And I'll tell you, before I actually physically saw him, psychically saw him, I had this bad feeling that like this black cloud was hovering around. And then I went to bed that night, and I understood why. And there he was, sort of grinning, looking over me. And he was in this room, and had this really high ornate ceiling. So he's of some prominence wherever he is. Right. He's in prominent places because of this just high ornate ceiling. It looked like one of those, you know what I'm talking about? With
sort
of like squares, like highly decorated ceilings,
almost
like you would find in a Victorian mansion, almost.
Yes, I know exactly what you're.
And there he was with the bald head, but that was the 80s. I heard, from my teacher that he was up to no good, like in the 60s from the lower realms. He was meddling. He was up to no good. And I got to say, when he came that night, I didn't get a good feeling at all about it.
Right. Well, the thing is, like I said, once somebody, he went down a dark path. He didn't recover by the time he left here.
Yeah. And it's probably going to take him some lives, maybe even, to recover. Who knows? It can happen suddenly,
Exactly. But that's, it's not for us to say, but my point really is that, we should definitely, because to study the stuff that he did before he took the dark turn.
Well, here's the thing. I've always been far more intrigued with black magic than white magic. And that's something that, people, you know what I mean? Especially in my organization. I think that's kind of odd, but you got to know the enemy, man.
Absolutely. Look,
You have to know the fucking enemy, which is why I bought the Crowley books in the first place.
right. And the point of it really is that, it's like Lao Tzu said, you can't, if you don't know the moves of your enemies, you're not going to be prepared at all for the fight. If you don't know the psychology, the motives, or how your enemy could move, then you're leaving yourself more open than a baby.
Wide open.
You're like a
Wide
baby
open.
in the middle of a lion's den. And that's the problem with all these new agers who say,
It's
oh,
a big fucking problem, man. It's a
oh,
big
I don't
fucking
wanna,
problem.
oh, I don't want to know about this. I don't want to be negative. And all these stupid, fake ass Christians who say all this shit like, oh,
Well, it was like the president said to me, Mark, I don't want to talk about war and Nazis. I said, well, you got the Ukraine flag on your damn profile. It's like, what I'm saying.
well,
You cannot ignore the fact that we exist in the midst of evil. You can't, you're going to line up for 6 shots. You're going to line up for 2 shots and 10 boosters, for God's sake.
right.
You're going to wear that fucking mask. You're going to do any number of things because you're manipulated because you just want to think about peace and bliss.
Well, I had somebody say to me one time, I mentioned about the Satanic Bible and saying that I've read LaVey's works and I've studied them. And they say, what, you read the Satanic Bible, but do you know the regular Bible? And I said, yeah, I know it. I know it probably better than you. And why would you not want to know your enemy?
I know.
I know that the Bible is not, first of all, it's been bastardized and mistranslated.
Yeah, it has.
And that I've read it.
It's been edited.
And that, have you read the Nag Hammadi? Have you read the lost books of the Bible?
Yeah.
Have you read those books that the Satanists decided not to put in the Bible?
The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas.
Right.
That's another thing we should talk about is Judas. That's not really as it appears. Let me tell you.